Hello and welcome to Just for Farmers. I'm with the legend that is Paul Harris again. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, everybody.
And we're joined with a very special guest. Now, Farmer Jim Smith, he's got his own YouTube channel. He's a bit of a celeb in the farming world, especially up in the north of Scotland. And I watched about half a dozen of his videos back to back and became slightly obsessed. I'm now an official stalker of Farmer Jim. Jim, welcome to Just for Farmers.
Hello, pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be with you.
Now, unusually, you are not only a comedian and humorist, you are a farmer. Tell us a little bit about your farm, Jim.
Well, really, we're 250 acres, kind of upland, mixed arable farm. It's all ploughable, but traditionally we're more stock. Third generation tenant farmer. And brought up growing seed potatoes, driving combines, all that kind of stuff. And then we came out of that. I went to agricultural college in Aberdeen, had a great time there. And then we came out with seed tatties, and then went on to suckler cows, beef cows, and sheep. And we've been doing that for 20 odd years. And then my dad, he passed away about 10 years ago. I was lucky enough to get the tenancy. Only son, well, I've got two older sisters, but we married them off the farmers, so that was fine. And then so it was just my mum and myself in the farm, and last year to sell the suckler herd and just focus on sheep and a wee bit of crop, a wee bit of barley, keeping it quite simple. So
wow.
So that's what we're doing, but love it. That's still I find myself very lucky to have a farm, you know. So there's maybe a bit of background. There's a toddler having a tantrum.
That's all right. It's real life on Zoom, even for farmers. Even for farmers, real life is on Zoom these days. So that's okay. So whereabouts in Scotland are you based?
We're central Perthshire, so we're about 14 miles north of Perth, just up the A9. So any tourists will know where we are. So. But we're right between
between Glasgow and Edinburgh, isn't it? I think, is that right?
It's
south of the border.
Further up, but up over the Forth Bridge. We're kind of on the foothills of the Grampian Mountains, you know, the Cairngorms. And then so we're halfway. We're just 2 or 3 miles from there, and also we're 2 or 3 miles from the Valley of Strathmore, which is one of the most fertile plains of farmland in Scotland, or if not the UK, you know. So.
Wow. And with everything going on at the moment in the world, especially in the farming industry, how's the community getting on? What's the biggest successes and challenges you're facing at the moment?
Well, just like obviously last year was a cereal, a lot of cereal growers around about here, and last year was good. All inputs went up. Obviously, it was a big gamble, but obviously then they were getting £300 for their malt and barley, and got a great harvest last year. You know, it just seemed to work well. Weather was perfect. Folk would do very well, and then I think maybe folk thought that would kind of stay up this year, price wise. You know, I know fertilizer dropped back a bit, but this year just between we had a really wet spring, so crops were going in late. Then a dry mid-May to mid-June, no rain at all, and then the bubble burst June, July. July, August was pretty wet. I hasten, not as wet as down south. I think you guys got it really bad, really bad.
Yeah, the south side of the UK is the rain was incessant for about 6 weeks.
Yeah, and of course you're early harvesting down there, so you had the rain. You really didn't want it. Whereas we actually had that hot spell about 10 days ago, that kind of mini heat wave. A lot of guys got on with their harvest then. It came just at the nick of time, but prices are back. And in terms of, I've still one field to do because we're a bit later here. And a mould combine needs nursed along a bit, you know. But in terms of livestock, yeah, cattle are booming and are good prices. And sheep seems to be working away too, but it's just you know, it gives everyone an excuse to pump up the input costs as well, you know. So it's like you're not actually making much more money, but but things they're not bad. They're working away okay, actually, I think.
Now I'm gonna dive straight in here because I mean I know the link between farming and stand-up comedy is an obvious one. You know, it's a short skip and a hop from farming to stand-up How on earth did that happen, Jim?
The mainly to save me for going a bit mad, I think. Well, I don't know how much you know about the Young Farmers. I know it's a big organisation down south. You know, in fact, when I was involved in the Scottish Young Farmers, I got to go and represent Scotland at Blackpool for the national conference. So happy memories there. But I got into that. I didn't enjoy school, high school, and didn't really fit in. And then, but I just had and then I joined Young Farmers, and that was great. And then we did a kind of like a competition. It's like a 10-minute song and dance or comedy sketch. I mean, we do pantomimes and things like that as well. So got involved in that and discovered I really enjoyed being on stage, but also really enjoyed kind of writing comedy and doing kind of local jokes and that. So I got really heavily involved in that throughout my Young Farmers career, and then I got to my late 20s and was still footless and fancy free, and you're too old for Young Farmers and all that kind of stuff. So I just had a hankering maybe to do something with my comedy, and I thought about doing. There's a couple of local lads that were quite funny. I thought about maybe doing a sketch group and going to the Fringe with them, but didn't really know how to go about it. And then I had no really thoughts about stand up, but I just okay, it was 2012. There was a really wet harvest, and I was on. I came across the Stand Comedy Club, quite a famous comedy club in Edinburgh and Glasgow, and they do. I discovered they have a 5-minute beginner slot on a Tuesday and a Monday. So you apply and you know, and they come back with 2 5-minute slots of stand up, you know, so do anything you want. So I just applied for that more as a laugh, thinking, oh, well, maybe not hear that. And they came back to me, and so I did my first 5 minutes in Glasgow. It was November 2012. Yeah, I remember setting off from Glasgow. It was from Perth, really. Got down there and didn't really know Glasgow at all, you know. So it was a total kind of like Mick Dundee coming to New York for the first time.
No crocodiles in Glasgow, thankfully.
Thankfully not. And then, and just sat in the car for 2 hours, worried about how am I going to entertain 200 Glaswegians for 5 minutes, not get bottled or booed off stage, you know. I thought I'd get through that. And luckily it went well. It went okay. And I just played the kind of country bumpkin naive act. I don't know. It seems to come over quite well. And I got a real rush from it, and then luckily we got asked back, and it just snowballed from there, really.
Wonderful.
So, how much
Paul,
time is the split now then between working on the farm and doing the comedy?
A lot actually. Time like I'm not actually doing as much away now. 2 things, because I've met Morag, my fiance, and we've now got 2 toddlers, both 3 and 1. So I used to be able to just nip down to Glasgow or Edinburgh, Aberdeen, weeknights or whenever and do 20 minutes. But I've been fortunate enough, I did all that before I met Morag and was able to build up a kind of repertoire. So I'm fortunate now I can go away and do some slightly bigger gigs. Not so often, but you know, I can like do town halls and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now and again. So so I'm not away as much, but I'm still it's all about trying to rewrite new stuff and focus a lot more on when I'm at home, you know. So when I go away, it's worthwhile, you know. So I'm not away as much as I could be, maybe if I didn't have children. But then it's different now, you know. On a wet, dreary November night, I don't want to go away down to Glasgow. You know what I mean? So I'm fortunate. I've built up it sounds big-headed, but I've built up a following. So, like, when we do a gig, lots of folk come out and we can put all my effort into that. So, but
lovely.
Aye, you know, and I think I'll say, because I think a lot of folk maybe thought, well, why don't I go up the farm to concentrate on the comedy full time? But I would hate that. I'd be lost without it. And I know it is a lifestyle thing, you know, and
good.
They're lost without it. I know it drives you mad, but I love it. I do.
Well, if you're anything like the other comedians I know, your wife is or your partner's obviously a saint because you probably test all your material on it. And I know a couple of comedians, and they tend to fall into one of two camps, Jim. They either tend to fall into the slightly manic, crazy, I'll just say it and hope it's funny world, or they tend to really go into the detail and the structure and the composition of the show. Which one do you fall into? Either of those, or are you different?
I'm tending more stories rather than one-liners. I'd really love to be like a one-liner guy, like Tim Vine or Gary Delaney, some of these guys,
Very clever, isn't it?
Gary Delaney's fantastic, but it's more kind of stories with hopefully punchlines at the end, or littered with little quirky bits.
But that's quite clever. That I mean that's clever as well. That's clever as well.
It's basically observational humour on kind of rural life. I mean, and when I started, I tried to do more kind of mainstream stuff so that city folk, because that's where the mass market is, especially up in Scotland, the Central Belt. But you've got to be kind of true to yourself, and there's no point me trying to talk about what folk in the middle of Glasgow get up to. But it was all about maybe a rural guy looking in on that, but then I started doing more gigs locally and things, or I get asked on farmers things, or somebody says, you want to come to the village hall? So it's more a rural audience comes. So you begin doing more of the kind of technical farming stuff, talking about, using red diesel in the car and young farmers dances and things like that. And that's just a great SEMA comedy. But it's maybe for, a predominantly kind of rural audience. However, I'm pleased to announce that I do get a lot of city slickers coming along, because it is something a bit different, or maybe they've got a connection. Everyone's got maybe a connection. They had a granny at a farm or something like that. So that really pleases me. When
what's one of your favourite stories that you use that from a rural perspective that normally gets a laugh?
Oh well, I used to do a joke about I used to do a joke about I'm not much of a country lad that when I was 10 I got a Scalextric set. It was just a single track road with passing places, or just I talk about I used to do a joke about
we've put the comedian on the spot now. Yeah,
I do a joke about how one of my favourite jokes is how obviously back in the 80s there was no sex education at school, but I was growing up on the farm, and it was sheep. We put the tups in with the sheep, so one male to 40 females, so nobody ever told me anything different. Nobody ever said that's not the norm. And then when I was 16, I was out at a youth club one night, and we ended up in a pub drinking a few pints of lager underage, and there was a hen do next door. So it was about 40 middle-aged women all dancing in their handbag, and I'm like, aye, I'll manage this.
Fair game. Good odds. Yeah, farming gives us a slightly twisted view, doesn't it? Of
it does.
From artificial insemination to sheep.
Who's your dad? It's the AI man. Yep. Yeah.
Again, I'm certainly not trying to tell you how to do your job, but I could see loads and loads of metaphors how you could compare what goes on the farm to even on the stock exchange, because all they talk about are yields and things like that.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Wonderful. Now, getting slightly more serious just for a second, although I'm sure knowing you'll probably twist it to be funny, is the impact that humour and laughter and joy has on people, because the farming industry at the moment does have a reputation for people struggling, sadly, with emotional and mental health stuff.
Yeah.
How much of an impact has your work had there, do you know?
Well, I think for me, it works both ways, because I do get lovely messages and farmers coming along and folk get in touch and say, oh, we were at your show on Saturday night, and it was just great to get a right belly laugh. We were really, really needing it, or folk say, oh, I watched your videos, and it was just great. We were all chuckling around the kitchen table, keep it going kind of stuff, and you're doing great for, as a link between the farm and the public as well. But yeah, just folks saying, thanks, I was really needing a laugh kind of things. I think it works both ways. I sometimes think, because we've all been there, if you're having a tough year or a bad harvest, like me personally, if you're struggling maybe on the farm, the last thing maybe I want to go do is watch a comedian, or sit and watch funny stuff. You know what I mean? It just depends on your mindset. Some folk maybe aren't in the mood, but some folk are like, no, I really need cheered up, So we'll go and watch this. So I'm just, it's nice. I think I think maybe folk appreciate you going to a local town or village or wherever, and doing stuff that, because I know a lot of these folk can go and watch Kevin Bridges and Frankie Boyle and kind of the more mainstream guys, and they're fantastic and they're just awesome off the scale, But I think maybe folk appreciate, just a group of rural folk laughing and getting all the in jokes and just having a right good belly laugh. Well, hopefully they have a belly laugh for a good hour and a half. You know what I mean? So, and it's a night out for them too. And actually, it's funny. And without saying big headed, but a lot must be about the only audience where the folk will know half the people. If you know what I mean?
Mm.
You hear them coming in the foyer. And it's like, oh, hi, Sandy, how you getting on? So a lot, and it's, I see a check shirts and tweed jackets, so it's so it's a social event, and usually a lot of these theatres are used to selling out, Prosecco's and cocktails, and they're like, we've just sold, 500 tins of Tennants.
And a lot of gilets,
a lot of gilets and brown boots.
It's probably the most middle class comedy or stand up comedy audience a comedian will ever do. Yeah. But what? I bet they have fun now, and as you say, it's a chance for them to come together. Yeah, well done, mate. Well done. So you talked about diversifying on the farm, but actually, what you're doing at the moment is kind of diversifying yourself as the farmer. So
I guess so.
Where do you see this going? What's next for Jim?
Well, we'll just need to. It's just been a hectic couple 2 or 3 years, because I did a tour and then with lockdown and then a couple of lockdown babies, so it's been a bit hectic. But and we got rid of our cows last year just so because there was a way more and with cows calving and things like that, and I thought I can't be away from home, so so we've got the farm more slimline. But I think the key is just keep trying to write new material. Just I've also discovered, rather than waiting on the phone ringing, because I've done a couple of BBC things. BBC Scotland have been really good to me. Rather than waiting on the phone ringing, get yourself out there and, keep plugging away stuff to them. Get yourself out there. And I think social media as well, although it's done me a lot of favours, I've kind of lapsed maybe a bit recently. So I just need to get more focus on that, because I feel there's just a whole, especially now with TikTok and that, there's a lot of competition out there now, and there's a lot of guys doing it really well. I mean, a big inspiration is like, it's a different kind of thing, right enough, because some but the Hoof GP, like Grassmen, Hoof GP, and Cammy Wilson from the Sheep Game, who's doing really well with his kind of farming channel. And I know that's more educational and informative, but his merchandise, his sales, he's really making a go of it. And I think you only get a shelf life maybe when you're kind of in vogue. So I think I need to get back out. Well, I'll finish my tour, get another show written, but I think I need to really build up my social media thing. And I was saying to more, I need to just allocate one day a week now, just to try to do that, even for a year or two, to see if we can really build up a bigger following. And then that works both ways, because if the bigger following you have, the more folk will come out and see you. But what I really want to do is maybe dip my toe over the border, and get down south and see, if we could, because I did Newcastle Stand 4 years ago, and a lot of farmers came out to that. So I thought, right, well, let's get down and see what we can do, and certainly Ireland, Wales as well, So
Yeah.
that's the, take the tour down there, maybe next couple of years, and just see how that gets on. But I think as well, personally, I really want to maybe try and aim for. You want to aim as high as you can. I would love to get on live at the Apollo or something like that. That would be the dream. But I would maybe need to make it more accessible. You know what I mean?
Well, I can't promise you live at the Apollo, but I might have a couple of contacts we can chat about.
Oh well, that's it. Well, I'm coming down. I'm hosting the Farmers Guardian Farmer British Farming Awards in Birmingham.
You're hosting that, are you?
Yeah.
Oh wow!
So really looking forward to that. Exposure. I don't know if you boys are going, but that's going to be a cracker. So,
well, that's only down the road
clearly and slowly. So
well, that's only down the road from us. So let's get together and have a beer.
Perfect.
So we found out how you started. We've found out why you do it. We've found out where you want to take this. If there is a message that you would give to farmers who, I don't know, they feel like they want a change, but maybe are a bit afraid to take that step, what advice would you give them about whether it's diversifying the farm or themselves? What advice would you give them if they're apprehensive?
Well, we'll just say, I would say, first of all, if you're going to do something a wee bit different from your time, find something that you're passionate about. I was lucky. I had a hobby and I stand up with a passion, and now I can make money from it. So that's find what you love doing, I would say, and try and make an income from that. As you touched on it, I'm fortunate that because we're a tenanted farm anyway, so we're a bit limited to what we can all use the farm. So it's not so much using the farm; it's more using myself. So I was fortunate, and it's only my time and my brain maybe I've had to invest, and a bit of thinking. I've not had to put any money in, and I take my hat off to anyone that's having to fork out a lot of thousands or get another loan to go and do something. But just, I think that especially if you're small scale like myself, you do have to look at diversifying. But that's the number one thing I would say. Obviously, do the figures and work it out and see if there is a market for it, a demand for it. But just do what you're passionate about, because there's times where it will hit a wall a bit, and if you're not that keen on it, you'll give it up. But if you really love it, you'll stick with it. If it's going to take a few years to make money.
I think that's a really good question, Dave, and a really good response, Jim, because so many farmers that I meet, when they say, what are you passionate about? They just say farming.
Yeah, well, I know.
And diversification, which is why this is really interesting, is often actually just seen as let's do more on the farm or something different on the farm. I think what you've proved, Jim, and you use this word hobby, how important it is from a mental health perspective as well for farmers to do something else other than farming.
Yeah.
It could be reading, writing, maybe write some comedy, write a book, go and travel somewhere, do ancient wonders, whatever it is, but do something that's not farming related. Guys, and you'll meet them in your work as well, that get to sort of what we call outside of farming retirement age, and they're still 20 years on beyond that, still working on the farm, and then suddenly life stops because the farm stops. So I think what you proved is actually diversification. It doesn't have to be the farm.
No,
you as the farmer.
Yeah,
I think a lot of farmers haven't thought about. So it's a really good advice, I think. Find a hobby, find something you love doing, and do that as well as the farm.
Aye, absolutely. Because farmers have so many strings to their bows as well. The engineers and plumbers, electricians, vets, all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, my dad was the same. He had no hobbies. He just loved his farming, which was great when it was going well. The years they make money, everyone's cock a hoop. But the years it's a bit crap. It's not good. And it's good that in the last 5 or 6 years we've seen a kind of talking about mental health, because for years that was never the issue.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you touched on writing a book there. Actually, one of my biggest influences when I was wee, and it's still, the comedy is still as relevant today. But You'll maybe know Paul, the Henry Bruce books.
Yes.
You know, he did the cartoons.
Yes.
But I think his first book, Funny Way to Make a Living, David, which is basically just sketches. It's cartoons of farming clips. Honestly, you should get it because it's still as relevant today. It's brilliant. And any farmers out there who haven't heard them, you can go on Amazon and get his books. Henry Bruce, brilliant guy. Just a kind of, I think it was Yorkshire peasant he called himself. And it's very unique humour, but it's on the money, you know.
Brilliant.
So is Farmer Jim coming to a bookstore near us?
I have actually now I've experienced children's books. There's maybe a market in that. I would like to maybe bring a children's book.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's maybe go down that road. So
my son's got severe autism, and he for many years was quite literally obsessed with Tractor Ted for a while. So maybe you can do the next big Tractor Ted thing.
Aye. See, that's a classic example of a farmer diversifying something really simple and doing really well. You know, it's great. And you know the one good thing. Sorry, I know you're probably but farming's really in just now. You know, it's really. I've never seen it for years. It was just Countryfile and Landward. That was it. And now there's all these different farming shows. It's such a pop. It's very in. You know,
people are genuinely interested in where food comes from now.
Aye. Yeah. And I think there is a better relationship now between farmers and the public. I think
right.
So.
Yeah, I think because also if you ask the general public to describe the average farmer, they'd use the word probably grumpy, whereas actually the sense of humour that's in the industry, the irony sometimes of what's going on, is hilarious. You know, it is just again some of the stories I'm sure the material that you've had come from real situations.
Absolutely
made up. You know, the life on a farm can be fun. It is fun. It is fun. It doesn't have to be serious all the time.
Aye. Yeah, I know. As I say, I think, Stephen, it's going right. You're making a bit of money and you're comfortable and can pay bills and invest. It's the best job in the world. And I would still take that over comedy any day. But it's just these times when things get tight, a bad year, it sucks the fun out of it, really, you know.
It does, yeah.
So it's getting that balance, yeah.
Well,
Do you want to just mention your YouTube channel in case people want to take a peek?
Oh, yeah, it's what is my YouTube channel? Is it? I think it's Farmer Jim. Or get me on. Follow me better on Facebook. Jim Smith Comedian on Facebook, and I put a lot of my videos up on there. I also got a TikTok channel as well, Jim Smith. But it's anything on the Facebook or that, I'll go.
Well, Jim, not only thank you for your time today, but keep doing what you do. You're making a difference to the lives of farmers out there, giving them a smile. And as we all know, laughter and humour is the greatest cure for any misery out there. So keep doing what you do. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, thanks for having us, guys. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. All the best.
Cheers.
Cheers.